Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of She Rises live speaker series. I'm Kelly Boyer and the founder of She Rises and the She Rises Foundation and a mentor for women through my Clarity Method. At She Rises, our mission is so simple. It is really about helping women rise up to just fully step into their feminine leadership and create changes with not only within themselves but within their communities. And that's why we bring voices like Simone Lüthi here to spark and inspire wisdom and create action and just remind us what's possible when we all support each other. For me personally, this mission truly runs so deeply within my soul. It's within my work, it's through my clarity method, which is all about empowering empowering people to just authentically step into themselves. And it's all connected to the She Rises Foundation, which again is about helping women just become unstuck and just use their voice and lead from a place of wholeness. So today's conversation with Simone ties right into this mission. And I'm so glad to have you here with us, Simone. So before we get started, I do want to let our audience just know a little bit about who you are and what we're going to be talking about today. So, Simone is an energy healer and founder of Energy Based Leadership Academy, which helps others transmute pain into purpose and soul healing. Ooh, I'm like, I could feel that. So profound. And today's topic is return to sender. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you on. How are you
Oh,
doing?
Kelly, it's amazing. Thank you for having me. Always good to connect with you, and thanks for the message that you bring out for all the work that you do. And so, yeah, again, my name is Simon Lüthi, and for over 2 decades, I was a high-performing executive. But behind the success was a body breaking down slowly and silently. So, from chronic illness to cancer, and what looked like achievement was actually inherited survival. And what followed wasn't just healing, it was a complete rewiring of my life and identity. And I'm sure we will have lots of fun unpacking that and talking about it. And I'm, yeah, super excited about today's topic to talk to you a little bit about leadership, liberation, the stories we inherit, and, kind of our whole ways of being wired.
Mhm. And I want to highlight this and your new book because you just
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
book come
thanks.
back out.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So I'm super excited. For those of you joining live, you see it here on the. I always have to like figure this out on no, this side. This side. Yeah, it's called Becoming the Rocket Shaman, Lessons in Healing Chronic Illness, Emotional Pain, and Burnout When Nothing Else Works. And I am super excited for this finally seeing the light of day. It's been labor of love for the last year and a half. Just came out about 10 days ago. It made it to number one top new release on Amazon in energy healing, which I am super excited.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work, and as always, when you start to share your personal story, there's a bit of a vulnerability out there, and especially when you are um, sort of wired under the belief of like, what will others think? And I'm sure we'll unpack that a bit. My mom would always say, "Don't be so loud. What will the neighbors think?" Or we can hear you to, the next village over. And for a majority of my life, I kept my voice little because I thought, if I speak up, I'm going to get in trouble. And coming out now with this book is a massive sort of big step forward of sharing
Mhm.
it. And the reason I've done it is because I felt left behind by the medical system in the US. I felt, gaslit, misdiagnosed, not seen. And I was like, you know what? If I want to change the way we think about healthcare and about being and about how to show up authentically, I've got to do my part. And I didn't want to be, the good 68, 60s of demonstrating on the street and throwing firebombs. I think that energy is gone. But really showing up with, I would say, a different way of looking at your healing journey and dabbling in all the logical and illogical spaces. So yeah, thanks for allowing me to talk a little bit about the book. It's a great
Yeah.
honor. It's available at as an audiobook, as a hardback, paperback, and ebook as well. So
Yes.
anybody that's interested, love for you to get your hands on a copy. And if you do it, I think in the next 10 days it's on sale. So it's cheaper than a cup of coffee because it's not about the money. It's so much as I really truly feel like the message in the book needs to be out there and be read by more people.
That's beautiful. And if you go to the She Rises, Amplify, and Thrive.com website and you go into his speaker center, you will find that the link to the book is also in there. So you can click on that link, it'll take you directly to it, and you can hit purchase and get his book uh, that easy. So
Not easy.
that easy. I love it. And so I really want to talk, like, you and I have known each other since COVID, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, we met during COVID.
We were
And
COVID buddies.
yes, and you really have had quite a journey in regards to your health and your healing journey. And I really feel like your topic, return to sender, really correlates with that journey. So I was hoping that maybe we can dive into a little bit of that topic, return to sender. Like, what does that mean in the context of your work as the rocket shaman, and how did this concept all come to you?
Yeah. So maybe let me just catch everybody up that has not seen me before, has not heard my story before. So, and I'll make it quick, I promise. But I've had three near-death experiences between the ages of 3 and 18. I call them potential exit points. I've had a massive autoimmune, couldn't get out of bed, was bedridden in 2015. And then Kelly mentioned it, COVID for us, 2020 was a bit of a shit show anyway, and then you throw cancer on top. And what I've learned through this journey is that I think the universe or life throws us these existential guideposts. And what I mean by that is, hey, in my case at least, you're not living a life of congruence. You're not living a life of purpose. And so it's a bit of a wake-up call, right? So I think in my head, they were screaming at me from above, and finally it was like knucklehead. Now I don't wish cancer on anybody, but I've been 5 years cancer-free in remission. I don't even use the vocabulary really anymore because I think words have power.
Mhm.
But what I've learned through this process was really understanding why was this happening for me, not to me, right? We're sometimes tend to go into victim mode. And in my case, it was really and I learned this really in my autoimmune. Like, hey, when you go to the best clinic there is and they don't know what's going on with you and they basically pull at straws and they throw, in my case, malaria medication at you and say, go have a nice life, and I'm like, but that's just symptoms, it's not actual root cause. And so this return to sender concept really evolved from my understanding of our conditioning. So if you think about and I read this somewhere in a psych mag, most of what we carry, so beliefs, behaviors, even symptoms, aren't ours. 70% of our anxiety or 80% of our relationship patterns, even 90% of our limiting beliefs are inherited, not chosen. They're just psychological, so they live in our biology or our nervous system, our cells. And if you really, think about that, from the moment we are born, we are sort of bombarded with information, expectations from our parents, grandparents, families, right? And then you go into school and you have probably your first fight and your first disagreement, and then you get into adolescence and you have, romantic relationships. And over time, it forms who we become. And I would almost argue a majority of us never really stop and ask, whose narrative and story am I living? Like, think about this for a second in your own life. Like, we're going through life, we're doing the best we can, but am I really truly living my story, my soul's purpose? And so as I was moving through, and in the green room, we talked a little bit about my experience. My mom, well, and I grew up in rural Switzerland where a teaching position was still an elected role. So in other words, my dad was a teacher, and both my parents were very keen on ensuring that their kids behaved in the community, didn't screw up, because anything we did could have been looked at negatively in their eyes.
Mhm.
And so the word, sort of the what I remember my mom always saying, don't be so loud, will the neighbors think? And so I think over time I have really suppressed my voice in both my needs, but also my sort of experience of life. And interestingly enough, all my shit is throat related. Like started at 3 years old, like all throat chakra couldn't leave, and then even my cancer was lymphoma with a tumor in my throat. Like think about this. So and now coming out with this book and talking about it, and I actually talk in one of the chapters, I'll teach you exactly what this return to sender is, and then how to unsubscribe in the next chapter from this false narratives, from all this stuff. It goes hand in hand. So this is really kind of an experience I've had personally to go, I'm living somebody else's narrative and I'm trying to fit in. Even becoming a corporate executive, I think my parents were more keen on us having a president or CEO label on our business card somewhere. That was like success. They cared less about whether we were good people, but like, what did you achieve in life? And so that was super, super liberating for me to understand, oh, I'm actually living someone else's narrative, right?
Mhm.
And maybe we'll talk a little bit about then how do you send it back? And why I'm sharing this and why I'm so passionate about this is we have more power than we think, right? Sometimes people say, "Oh, I don't know. I just have to fit in," or but when you really understand that not only is it your birthright, but it is your soul's calling to be authentically you, and you no longer give a shit what other people think, and you send it back with love. This isn't about, you
Mhm.
know, lighting a fire and through a Molotov cocktail at your family. It's really about, hey, no longer mine, sending it back with love. This is your story, not mine. And then the magic really begins because you can become an active um, person in your life, not just a passive participant, right? You are now starting to, and I love this. One of my teachers, Alberto Violdo, said this always. You start to dream your life into being. And
Mhm.
that's where you find me with this book, with my voice, with my mission, with reaching more people. And I'm just encouraging anyone that's listening now and or later in the replay to start to just notice and think about whose story are you living and hearing.
Yes. So just real quick, so I don't forget, Camille did put something in the chat. She says, "Love your terms you are using. Return to sender and unsubscribe." And I agree. That's those are I'm like those are excellent ways to look at that. I kind of want to touch on that narrative. I think that we all have that narrative, and it's so incredible that you bring it up because I was just talking about this narrative that I had been living. I'm going to say up until recently, even when I thought that I was releasing the narrative, I told you in May I had quit my job. And as things began to unwind and unfold, I still realized that really up until that job, I've always been living somebody else's narrative. And I've never had the opportunity to share my voice in a way that I feel has been needed, not only for myself, but I feel like for the world. We're all here to impact the world in some kind of way. But what I realized in that was when you're living the narrative, you don't realize how I'm going to say how often or that you actually fall into victimhood because you don't have an identity. So you now become victim to whatever this is that you're living. And so yeah, so I really feel like what you're talking about, yours manifested in health concerns. For other people, it manifests in other ways. But I think it's incredible from shifting, going, this isn't my narrative. I'm no longer going to be a victim, to this self-empowerment of now where you are and using your voice. And I guess I'm just kind of curious, like, now that you see the whole picture, how has that impacted your life in other ways for you?
Yeah, I love this question. Because again, it goes back to really recognizing that, oh, like whose story is that am I living? And out of that came an entire coaching program. So I now actually take people through, and it's called Rewrite Your Story. And there's obviously a lot of, Jungian psychology in there as well. But the first step really is about having sort of an understanding that, oh, this voice, this doesn't feel like it's mine. So I start basically by saying, you kind of do a bit of an inheritance inventory, if you will, and a little bit of a somatic pattern interruption, I call it. And so it's the first step is recognize, is this mine or not? And if it's not mine, what do I do with it? Can I send it back? And so then the release aspect of breathing through it and releasing it. And then the third step, and I think that's equally, if not more important, is reclaiming it. I am Simone, I am here now, I choose differently. I no longer have to be this, right? And so this is a bit of the empowerment message that I really have for everybody listening. And so I have another quick example, and that was really mind-blowing to me. And Kelly, you know this too. So and we may have talked about this, but worth repeating. When I started to kind of think about who I have become, I was a very successful executive, made lots of money, and had trouble in my romantic relationships. And out of all of this came a bit of like, I'm not lovable. I don't know. It made no, excuse my French, fucking sense what I was thinking, but like, maybe you can relate. It's like I'm not lovable. Why not? Like, and then if that fact was true, if I'm not lovable and I wanted to be in a relationship, what do I do? Oh, maybe single moms, so to speak, I can come in as the knight in shining armor. I have money, I come in, I'm a good guy, blah, blah, blah. And it worked until it didn't, right? Because the relationship became transactional and it didn't click until, later in life, a couple of years ago, when I was like, oh shit, my sort of way of going through life is actually influenced by this innate belief that I'm not lovable. And I came up with some mechanisms to overcome that. And why I'm sharing this story with you again is when you think about I'm not lovable, whose story is that? Like, where's this coming from? Makes no sense. And then I realized I had talked with my mom a few years before she passed about my, I guess, conception and birth and all that stuff. So my mom had a tubal pregnancy and almost bled to death. And this was between my oldest older siblings and I. And in all intents and purposes, she was not supposed to have another baby. And the doctor said there's risk remaining of getting pregnant again with one fallopian tube. And they really wanted that fourth child. I was, I guess conceived and, the miracle baby, so to speak. Now we have two reactions of two grandmothers that were around. My dad's mom basically yelled at her and said, "Are you out of your mind? You're challenging God. What the fuck are you doing? This isn't supposed to be. You're basically putting yourself at risk and this baby at risk." And this grandmother always kind of had a weird, like, I felt like she didn't like me. It
Hmm.
was always uncomfortable being in her house. I had to stay there during vacation. She was mean to me. She was talking down to me. And I think this not lovable was, I picked up early on. Like, think about it. Like, even from the moment I was conceived, I was already kind of like, you should not exist. Why
Hmm.
are you here? And then the other grandmother, my mom's mom, her husband, my grandfather, passed away 2 weeks before I was born. And for her, I was the miracle baby, the one that came in, that she could care for, that she could care us, that like, oh my God, like you're helping me through this grief. So the rescuer of coming in and actually rescuing somebody from their pain was almost from the moment I was born, right? And so again, to go back to my romantic relationships, that was not lovable. What do I do about it? You go back to my birth. I am not lovable because somebody demonstrated this, and I am super lovable because I am coming in and as kind of the knight in shining armor as a baby. So that was a big turning point for me. And I went and said, okay, so now what do I do? Both of them have, since passed, but just writing a letter and writing this out and said, hey, like grandmother, this is your shit. This is not my shit. how dare you even put this on me? I'd never asked for this, right? And so going through this letter writing that I wrote both of them, and in this case, this is a practical thing all of you can do. Write a letter. You can do whatever you need to write in that, because they're never going to see it. And write it, put their address on, put a stamp on it, and throw it in the fire. Don't mail it. But just that ritual of, again, when I talk about this recognition and then this release and reclaim, throw it in the fire, you reclaim your own story that is not yet written because you return that, narrative back to somebody else. And man, has that had power of, basically coming out of this and feel like, oh, I no longer have to do this. I am actually lovable in the way that I am. And I think, I would almost argue for many of us, this is this is probably a story that we recognize, and we and last thing I will say to that, we all have these survival patterns and mechanisms. Okay, so if something's wrong with me, okay, well, I can put up makeup, or I can do this, or I can lose weight, or I can clothes, or I buy this or whatever, right? We're always trying to fit in somewhere. And the danger with that is that we over time start losing ourselves and our soul purpose and our beauty, right? Our innate soul beauty coming into this world. We're all here for a purpose. And once you recognize that, oh, okay, I'm actually living somebody else's story, I unsubscribe from the narrative, send it back, and here I am. And now from that point, you can go, where do we go from here?
Mhm. I think you're correct. I think I'm gonna side with you that the majority of us that have come into this life do experience that theme of not being lovable. And thank you for sharing that story because I do feel it is very relatable. And in fact, even Camille commented that your story is very similar to a friend of hers. Her mom didn't want to have children.
Okay.
So I 100% resonate with that. Um, in fact, it's probably been maybe about a year ago. I received my aunt who thought she was, I mean, she thought she was being nice and had given me these letters that my mom had written to her when she was really young and just had graduated high school and was traveling all of Europe. And she gave them to me. And as I read them, you could see in what she was writing that unlovable piece of her not wanting me. And of course, there's more to that story that unfolds as I got older. But like I'm going to say that's a narrative I've had to really untangle and untether from. But in the reality, like I realized that I actually came here to learn about love. So in that process, when I look at the big picture, that's why I like, and I'm sure other people and you may understand this too. I've experienced rejection, betrayal, backstabbing, like, all of that. And now when I look back at it, I do love the polarity of it because if I didn't have that, then how would I know how to, and I'm not going to say love other people, but love myself because it has to come from me
Yes.
first
Yes.
before I can actually allow that to be able to love someone else. But then what, it was so funny because when you were talking about being unlovable, like that's just like it sounds so ridiculous, but it truly is ridiculous, I'm gonna say, because it's really hard to be unlovable when we were created at the pure essence of unconditional love. Like we
Yeah.
are love.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how that narrative gets created and imprinted literally. It's like within our DNA structure.
Yeah, and I think especially here in the US, we're so service driven to a degree, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But even if you think about, I guess an early Bible verse is love thy neighbor like thyself. I took that always as, oh, you got to love everybody else first, and then you come second, right? But that's
Mhm.
not what it says. It actually assumes that we're pure love, we're pure unconditional love, and that we are supposed to love on us first. Because if we do that and we are in full love with us and as a person, And as a soul, we can love others better and we can be of service of others. But I think
Mhm.
so many of us feel we need to earn sort of the honor badges and we exhaust ourselves in service to our family, to others. And then we find ourselves completely exhausted with a glass of wine in front of the TV at the end of the day, right? And when you really start to think about self-love as one of the hardest things I think our culture is undergoing, it's crazy. I mean, like the person that we should love the most is you know, us, me, you, right? It's like it is so insane to me that we are actually doing more work now on self-love. I recorded an entire self-love meditation series on that because I felt it was time to reconnect with our soul's truth and become lovable in that sense. Um, and if that's still not in our DNA, that's probably the one thing that we really do need to work on. And I mean that work on because I'm like, if you can't look in the mirror and say, "Hey, man, love you." By the way, I recorded this beautiful song about mirror work by Louise Hay about "I love you." You can find it on Spotify if you're curious about becoming the rocket chum. The album is called "Love Is the Cure." And I did this. I think it's called the 21 day or 30-day mirror challenge by Louise Hay. Maybe some of you know it. And the pure notion is you stand in front of the mirror and you tell yourself, you look yourself in the eye and you say, "I love you, I approve of you," and you go on and on and on. Well, I I picked this mirror challenge while I was undergoing chemo. So, saying to yourself, you love yourself while you look like a naked guinea pig with no hair, no beard, and no nothing, it's like, okay, I guess I needed the extra challenge on top of that. But that is such a powerful tool, and I love her for actually suggesting and writing a book about it. And then I wrote this song as kind of like a singing to myself. I love you looking in the mirror, right? Um, and I think that's sort of the encouragement in addition to, return to sender and
Mhm.
unsubscribe is now, okay, what do you do now? Now that you sent the old narratives and stories back, love yourself. And then from that love and from that center, you can start to dream your life into being again, like Alberto would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, 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 yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that you did that. And I think especially in the US, we come from that stigmatization is if you act like you love yourself, we don't give like I hate to say because we label everything. We don't give it the label of wow, that person really like values who they are. We give it the title of ego or arrogance, or we put this negative spin on it. And that's a collective belief that I do feel like we're still undoing. But the way we can undo it is by, like what you said, just loving ourselves. There is nothing wrong with that, to be able to just love who we are as we are in all of our imperfectly perfectness, right? So absolutely. I love that. And I'm going to encourage everybody to do that do that challenge and record yourself, because I guarantee from day 1, when you get up to day 30, I'm going to guess that even the tone and the vibration, you'll actually see the changes as well as experience them, is what I'm going to guess.
Totally. You are 100% correct. And here's why. Our bodies are 80% fluid liquid, if you think about it, right? And if you ever thrown a pebble in a lake, you know that we have ripple effects. And there's this beautiful study. I can't remember the Japanese gentleman that did the study on the ice crystals of, having a glass filled with water and then wrote on it, "I love you, you're beautiful." And then the other glass said, "You're ugly and I hate you." And then he froze that water, and you can actually see the deformity of the glass of "I hate you, you're ugly." The ice crystals look different; they're deformed.
Mhm.
And the one comes out of the glass, "I love you, you're beautiful," are just these beautiful, magnificent things. So you think about that for a second, right? If that is actually scientifically proven, I guess you could try it out under a microscope, but look it up. It's true. And now we are talking to us in a way that is not encouraging, not loving, right? Oh my God, like look at all these wrinkles and oh, I'm fat and oh, I'm this and all that. And I make the argument on both ends of the story that I believe I've proved that you can bring something negative on and you can also heal from something negative. My mom, another momism that she used is, hey, you boys need to go get colonoscopies and colon cancer runs in the family. And I would say for years, cancer is not in my future. Cancer is not my future. Cancer is not my future because I didn't believe that that was my fate. But I think the universe doesn't understand the word no or not. In our bodies, again, if we are sort of liquid beings, if you will, and this snow ice crystal thing is true, if I tell myself a negative, lower vibrational truth, wouldn't perhaps the body starts picking it up? And I would even go as far to say I probably manifested the cancer for myself.
Mhm.
And now, once I realized what I was doing, and I read in the book about this as well, the moment Sunday morning when I was declared cancer free, 5 months later, I feel like I'm having breakfast and I feel something in my throat. And I race frantically back into the bathroom, my iPhone flashlight and a butter knife on my tongue to kind of do the thing. And here it is again. I see it again in the back. And I'm like, this cannot fucking happen. I cannot go through this again. And then I was like, you know what? But if I have all this power and I brought it on myself, shouldn't I be able to, get resolve it? I don't want to say get rid of it, but that's just kind of like what I was thinking that Sunday morning. So I changed that narrative to from cancer is not in my future to I live a long and healthy life. I'm healthy. And I would repeat that 30, 40, 50, 60 times. I don't remember exactly the count, but many times a day out loud, silent in my thoughts in my car. Um, and after a month, all this went away and it has not returned since. Now, you tell me, right? I may be one of, and I have to be careful sometimes with these statements because, I'm not in your situation. I don't know what story you're living. I don't know what you're going through. All I'm saying is that positivity and returning, these narratives, and even in my case, my mom, her fear okay, well, if I get colon cancer, so is my story, like leave me alone kind of thing. It's a very extreme way of saying this. I get it. But it was her, like, love and care that she placed that, like, oh, you need to be careful. But inadvertently, she sort of brought something on because I believed it or I started to repeat it. Once I send it back and I unsubscribe from that cancer narrative, all things started to shift. And so that's my encouragement, right? Like, the more positive things you can tell yourself every day, you don't even have to believe it. But I think that's the point you're trying to make, Kelly, is over time, you will see the difference in the way that you feel and look at yourself. And you may even go complete bliss wash over you as you start to love yourself just by basically being kind, by being loving, by being encouraging and keeping these positive thoughts. And maybe, like me, you will even heal some crazy illnesses that you've been carried around for years.
Yes, I do, like, I love that. And I don't, like, you had mentioned it right in the beginning when we started this interview, in the power of words. And we're like, well, words carry the most high vibration. Well, I say high vibrational, but like what I'm meaning, it carries a lot of power behind it. Our words and our thoughts,
Hmm.
because our thoughts are still words. They're just up here instead of verbally coming out. So imagine when you think, let's go back to the I'm unlovable. You're thinking I'm unlovable, and then you're using these words that demonstrate or that says that I'm unlovable, such as, oh yeah, I really can't do that, or I don't know if that's possible for me. What's up here is really being translated out here. So in my mind, I always think about it being like a double whammy of it. But I do believe, and I love that you said saying it, whether you believe it or not, because from a psychological standpoint, when we say positive or negative things, when we say them enough times, over a period of time, eventually we collapse the old neural pathways, we create the new ones. And every time that we say it, these pathways open up for more of that energetic frequency to flow through it. So, in my mind, if I'm going to create these new neural pathways where this energy and this frequency is going to flow through, do I want negative or do I want something positive? And mind you, every time that we put something positive and we create that, it actually branches off and creates more neural pathways. So, it is a form of, I'm going to say, kind of our mentalism expansion
Yeah.
of how we can truly heal ourselves. Um, Sorry, I want to add on to that. So my entire life I was an athlete. And I competed in soccer. I was very competitive in soccer when I was young. I played competitively in college. And I had this coach who made all of the difference in my playing because I always doubted myself. I had a dad who yelled at me from the sidelines all the time. Even
Okay.
if I
Yeah.
played good, he told me I sucked. But this coach was all about mindset. And she, like, the way that she ingrained it into us about how, like, even before we go play, each and every one of us, she'd go to us and she'd be like, "What kind of player are you?" And we'd be like, "I'm fucking awesome. I'm fucking awesome." And like even the energy of all of that, I'm gonna say that entire season, I don't think I had one poor game where I walked off and went, "Oh, I should have done that differently." I always walked off feeling really good. And in fact, we ended up winning the championship. And the reason that I say that is because in sports they use a lot of that to motivate you, to amp you up, to make you feel it, to make you feel it.
Yeah.
Because that's the key, right, to vibration and frequency is when you feel it, you begin to embody it. So then you begin to embody what you believe, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, and
So,
I would add to that. It's a beautiful analogy that you brought up, especially in sports, right? And it makes me believe a little bit of like, well, you can be anything that you want to be, right? So this is kind of our saying that we have this American dream, and
mhm.
I believe that's true. With the caveat, are you actually playing your own game or are you playing somebody else's game?
Yes.
Okay. So you are in this as a player, as a teamwork, but is this actually your soccer match or is this somebody else's soccer match that you're in? And I found out for me that sort of this midlife crisis is an interesting halftime. If to since you brought up soccer as kind of
Mhm.
a halftime narrative. So when you think about your life, and I think women go through this a little earlier in life. You guys are smarter than guys sometimes. It takes us a little longer. But my point is, I think the first half is sort of played on this expectations narratives, maybe even some would say soul contracts, karmic things that you have to resolve. And then something comes and wakes you up. Whether that's just, you just are unhappy and you get divorced or you have an illness or something else. Some of us go, okay, well, that sucked. I go, next partner, next thing, next that, and you go straight to sleep. And I see this in my end of life work a lot as well, like people having regrets. But if you think about your life a bit in kind of a soccer match, you have sort of the players on the pitch that are your like these are your core values. These are the things that you really want to bring in, and then you have kind of halftime. You kind of review, what happened, what worked, what is not, and you can start swapping out players, and you can swap out stories, you can swap out values, whatever, and you kind of put this back together. And those is what I kind of call sort of the non-negotiables. And then you have to really be careful what the spectators, like, in your case, the that's like, to what voices are you listening to? So as you go in your second half of your life and you start to change the narrative and the strategy of your life, that's the first step. And you have to then also be super careful of who's your tribe, who are your spectators, who are the
Mhm.
ones yelling from the sideline. Are they encouraging because they have your ascension and your best interest in mind, or are they the
Yeah.
doubters, the haters, the this and that, right? That are basically amplifying their voices as well.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, absolutely positive affirmations and thinking is key as long as you play your game and not somebody else's game.
Yes. And you know what? And I love that you say that your game because like in all of the years, mind you, I started playing soccer when I was like 4 years old. I stopped playing up until recently when I was finally 7 months pregnant, and my doctor was like, "You can't do this anymore." But in all honesty, it wasn't until that coach that I really did start playing my game, just like your example. So I wanted to support that as like in a real life example,
Yeah,
because up until that point, like I was always playing for someone else.
yeah.
And then I stepped into the magic of my own narrative of playing for me and really just started to like enjoy the game. I enjoyed it before, but like really enjoying it. So I want to comment on something that you had said because, you know, some of the things when even when we're going through healing, even when we're saying these affirmations, when we're talking about these really potent things, a lot of times people like, and I've witnessed this in working when working with people doing healing. The thing that comes up a lot of times is guilt or resentment, especially if we're talking about inherited things in the beliefs of our family. So I was just curious as to if you had any examples or any steps that people can take to understand that again, this is your journey. So guilt and resentment is not really something we want to harbor, that it is truly connected to that narrative, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. I think what you're talking to is a bit of like, the maybe the masks we're wearing, sort of the survival techniques that we've learned, right? The fight or flight. So even within our own family, sometimes we learn to adapt. So your dad was a yeller, you said, right? So I'm sure you've developed your survival mechanisms to basically either tune it out or, but I also think subconsciously you probably picked up a lot of that stuff. So as you are now doing the show and you're out there in public, right? The voice that we sometimes hear, like, like in my case, what will, mom think and what will the neighbors think and all that.
Mhm.
Um, I would I would say it is a learned trait, and yours truly, I'm still walking through that. I'll give you a practical example, what I've just learned, right? So this whole what will the neighbors think? I am obviously in the middle of promoting my new book, and as a new author, you have to do a lot of your work. It's not like the publisher does it all for you. They do a lot, but it's not like everything. And I don't know, I sent a couple hundred, texts out to my contacts and friends and said, hey, would you support me? And I've got two messages out of a couple hundred that were negative in nature. And I observed my energy system, like the first one, like, oh shit, like I didn't even like, really? What? And then my nervous system went on every time that I sent a message and my phone dinged, I was like, is this another negative? Like, like somebody shouting at me? Because, right, this whole you're not good enough, you're not lovable, still is a bit ingrained in my pattern. But what was interesting to me was as I started to just recognize, I think the first pattern to stop or, kind of the cord to cut is recognize what's happening. So I'm like, okay, I'm triggered by something. This is now starting to like activate my nervous system. And I could be really, really focused on that versus on the other positive messages that I'm getting back. And so I kind of go back in this reclaim and breathing exercises. So I did a lot of just box breathing to just, slow down my nervous system. Okay, something just happened. And then again, I was going back into this, I'm here now, I choose differently. And this is my story and this is worth telling. And as I started to manifest and or be in this positive, I am worthy, I am lovable. And I then said every message that gets back that's positive, I pay attention, I read it, and I say thank you. The next message that's positive, I read it, I say thank you. And so it was really interesting by the time that, I don't know, the third negative message came about, I was like, okay, I could just kind of let it go. And so I think it's muscle memory, right? It's not something that
Mhm.
you can change overnight. But the biggest gift you can do for yourself is recognizing that A, you're living somebody's story, you're triggered by something, and you're triggered because you have had trauma. Like in your case, a yelling dad from the sideline. In my case, several things in my family patterns. And I think we all have these stories. I think if we went around the room, I'm sure, people have stories about their family they could share. Um, and so as you then basically just recognize it's not mine, I breathe through it, and I'm starting to focus on the positive aspects. of how can I actually shift this around. I think that is the, sort of the, like any marathon you're going to run, you've got to train for it, right? And I think if as we're
Mhm.
getting out of these emotional abusive patterns that we've lived, we have to train for that marathon again and just, know that but we have the power, right? We can go out and put our shoes on and go start running.
Yes, absolutely. It really is all about awareness and not being afraid of what comes into your awareness. I think that's the other part is that a lot of people are really afraid to allow that awareness to really come up to the surface to see it because I think they sometimes think that that awareness, there's something really scary in it, but there's actually something very liberating about it because it gives awareness gives you the ability to make a choice. When as before, when it was all bubbled down, we didn't think that we had a choice and this is how we have to be and this is how we have to act. And the truth of the matter is the moment that awareness comes to the surface, that liberation starts happening because you go, well, wait a minute. And like you said, I choose differently. And then it's kind of like, wait, I get to choose differently. I don't have to succumb to this narrative that I've been living for up until now, my entire life, right? And now I get to
Yeah. Yeah.
choose a different direction. And I think that is one of the beautiful things of what of when we choose to come into this earth school is that we do get the ability to have choice.
Yeah, exactly. And what I've learned through my process, I mentioned I have a coaching program called Rewrite Your Story, which is a 9-step program that I take people through. And the real crazy thing is that I spend 6 steps just on different ways of recognizing the voices and the patterns and the masks and the being. And it takes that long for us to uncondition ourselves from all the bullshit that we've been taken on.
Mhm.
Right. Because I tried to do it earlier. It's like, okay, come on, like just say no. Like it really takes different ways of looking at it, different angles, different psychology, different energy medicine, different ways of actually getting to the point for somebody to understand, got it, this is not mine, this is somebody else's. And then we go one step to return it. And then we have, another 2 steps afterwards that really go into, okay, now what is your future? What is your life going to look like? And let's anchor on this now. Like if you're no longer living somebody else's story, but just recognizing that getting out of somebody else's narrative takes some time and it takes some effort and just, be super gentle with yourselves if you're doing it on your own. But again, the most important part, like you said, is awareness and recognizing it.
Well, you know what? I love that you said that and that you've created a program because I do think that one of the hardest things is really recognizing that you really are living somebody else's narrative. So I think it's wonderful that you created this program and these steps that people can use to recognize that because we do go through life thinking like this is who we are and finally coming to that conclusion of going, well, maybe this isn't who I am is not an easy thing to do. So I love that you created a program to really help guide people into releasing that, into stepping in. And I don't no, I'm not going to say stepping in, into remembering who they always have been.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Coming home to who they are.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible.
Oh man, if you get to that point where you get to exhale, this is home, this feels like me. It may still not be completely, written, maybe more of a black and white movie because it hasn't been colored yet. But oh my God, that moment when you just go, whew, wow. Okay, here we are. That was me coming out with this book, stepping into my true power of what I was meant to be. I feel more alive and healthy than ever. And that's just, I wish that for everyone that, not just that's listening, but really worldwide to get to that point, you can exhale you arrive home and you know that you have power to actually manifest and dream your life into being and doing the things that you've always needed to be because it is your soul that's calling you to it.
Yes, yes. Oh, just saying that is so empowering. I love it. So I do want to open it up to the people that are viewers that are here with us today. Do any of you have any questions, comments, or just things that you would like to share, even just about your own journey, You can come off mute, you can put them in the chat. I'll be happy to read them for you. But we do want to also open it up to you and recognize you and, and your journey as well. Oh, I think they're enjoying listening to yours.
Yeah. Well, Camille, first of all, I'm just reading your chat. Thank you for mentioning that as well. You know, you said this is similar to a friend of mine. Her mom didn't want to have children. You know, I think part of it is also that we're not alone, right? So you recognize that you live somebody else's story, but to go, oh, like this sounds like somebody else, or oh my gosh, like I have, somebody else. And so as we come out of this pain and this, kind of unraveling, I guess, of our previous life, super important to have a tribe, super important to have the right voices, right? You will always have voices speaking into your life, but it's the voices that ask permission first to give you advice or are really interested in, your overall ascension. And in this case, somebody that went through the same thing, right? It's powerful that you feel like you're not alone. So thank you for just pointing that out. I think it's an important part.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so Simone, you so graciously provided a gift for donation for the She Rises Foundation. Again, everyone, just so that you know, any donations that are made to the She Rises Foundation, 100% of that donation goes to that foundation to provide scholarships, funding, education. It can be startup, whatever it is to help us really uplift and really start allowing women to step into their feminine leadership, their power. Women, we're coming back.
Yes.
And so anything that, I'm very passionate about it, anything that I can do to support women, and that's the reason why this foundation was created. So again, all donations go to it. And so you so generously provided a donation gift. The donation gift that you provided is called Energetic Rocket Fuel Recipe Book. Would you like to talk some more about that and what people will receive when they provide their generous donation?
Yeah, absolutely. When I came out of my autoimmune and I had to really change my diet and realize that food is medicine, there wasn't that many cookbooks out there yet. And so over time, I found my own recipes. So basically, the book is a collection of all my favorite recipes that I found: breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, desserts, smoothies. Some of them I created my own. I have even a non-alcoholic old fashioned. For those of you that know me, I like my, every once in a while my bourbon in an old fashioned. So I had to come up with something healthier for that. So yeah, it's basically my own branded recipe book that I hope you will enjoy.
Mhm. Yes, yes. So I do recommend you getting it because I was gonna say the last time that we talked and we talked about that, I did get it. And I've also had several other people that I know that has picked it up and love it. So just some encouragement. It really is amazing. So thank you for that gift. I just want to share one more thing in the chat. We have somebody all the way from Australia here.
From down under. That's amazing.
Yes, that's amazing. I don't even know what time it is there. But if you'd like to come off mute and just kind of share, we would love to hear about it. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. It's 6:55 a.m. I've just got out of bed not long ago and put the dogs out and making a cup of tea. And I'm just so glad that I found you here. I just checked and logged in and here I am.
Oh, well, welcome. We're so happy to have you. We're like, wow, to me, that's dedication and passion when you're willing to hop on at 6 in the morning. That's incredible. Thank you for
Yeah, and you know what? And is it Jan or Jan? I never know. Is it
Jan.
Jan?
It's
Yeah,
Jan, yeah.
and hopefully you can listen to the replay because we talk a bit about, the stories and narratives and about self-love and the fact that you had the guts to get up here at 6:55 in the morning, no makeup, no nothing, that's exactly the type of people we need more of, that we love on ourselves. We don't care what others think, no other stories. And we show up authentically. So thank you for embodying that message that we just talked about.
You're
Yes.
welcome. I do go with my intuition a lot, and I put the kettle on and it said, check the computer and the emails, and here I am.
Oh, oh my gosh, you have no idea how grateful my heart is. I just think it's wonderful. And like I agree with Simone. Like you are the embodiment of what we're talking about. And honestly, what this platform is about and and I'll tell you the community that I'm working so hard to build is just authenticity and following your intuition and trusting in all of that. So thank you so much, Jan. My heart is so grateful. Thank you for being here and sharing that. Gosh, you came from all the way across the world. Thank
Amazing.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. I just love all this stuff coming through because everybody needs it, and a lot of people they just oh yeah, okay, whatever. But I've been doing energy work for online, just doing the webinars for about 3 years now, and I just love it, and it's just so real. Thank you.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for hopping on and being part of She Rises community. It's so awesome. Like seriously, my heart is so grateful. I was like, oh my God. When I read that, I was like, whoa. So thank you, Jan. So much love, literally from my heart to yours. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Back to you.
Oh, so amazing. Oh, I'm like, I'm not gonna lie. I have to kind of put a plug in here. This is one of the reasons why I do this. I cannot tell you, like, this is where my energy goes, hell yeah, is just, being able to just allow people to share their stories and their journey and their insight and their wisdom. So, Simone, thank you so much for just being here today. I am so proud of you, my friend, and all that you're doing. I've been following your journey since we met, since
All
COVID,
right.
and just watching you grow and evolve. And now, like you put out, I mean, realistically, this is the second book you've put out, and a third one that's to come. And you just sharing your journey and empowering people to really just take control of their health and who they are, and just being who they are and being okay with it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, and thank you for the recognition. It goes right back at you, my friend. It's amazing when we really start to step into our soul path. I think it's like igniting. That's where the rocket shaman is coming from as well. Really not just flying in an airplane, but actually going to space. And that's kind of how this felt to me. And so again. My encouragement just to everyone is that the life you were born to live is still waiting. You just have to stop living someone else's first. And so that's really kind of the notion of becoming the rocket shaman in my book and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But thank you for having me on the show. Thanks everyone for joining. It was lovely to reconnect. And yeah, you have the QR code and let me know. See, I always do this wrong.
I'm
And
like,
I should like figure this out, like where to point. Like somebody made the screen for
yeah.
me. But yeah, thank you from the bottom of the heart also for the work you do, Kelly, and the empowerment that you provide. We need more of that in the world.
Thank you. Well, it takes, the saying, it takes a village. And I really feel like this is all part of the village of all of us coming together, even all of you that joined us today, and each and every one of you that will be joining on the replay. Simone, you come back again?
Would love to
Okay.
anytime. Absolutely.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I would love to have you back. I feel like we always have great chats. I'm all in the interview room, outside of the interview room.
Yeah, right.
But I would love to have you back. And again, a huge thank you to all of you that have joined us, everybody who is going to catch the replay, every single soul that has supported this platform and the She Rises Foundation. I have so much gratitude and love. You have no idea how appreciative I am. And again, to you, Simone, thank you so much for taking the time to just share you and who you are. Thank you so much. So much gratitude. And
You.
until next time, everyone, again, just a real quick is that I am now doing these shows every Tuesday and Friday from the request of so many people. I never expected it. So we will be on again on Friday, same time, 12 p.m. Arizona time. Please check your time zone because Arizona is weird and we don't change times. So throws everybody off. But please join us again on Friday. And Simone, I love you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you
Love
so
you too,
much.
Kelly. Thanks.
All right. Until next time, everyone.